So the future will be determined by today's children. Go ahead and let that sink in for a second, because the only people that are like children in this room is Jose sitting in the front seat. But this means that we need to educate them in things that we didn't have to learn about when we were kids, because we were all kids once. We didn't have to think about this stuff. Things on how to cope with climate change, water scarcity, and how to use natural environment to support us all. Enters April, president of the San Miguel Audubon Society. April has created a program to educate our children to solve problems in a collaborative way. Called Niños en Nature, 400 local public school children are participating each school year. Please help me welcome April to the podium today. Share.
Thank you, Joe. Uh, Thank you, Rotarians, for all the good work that you do and for inviting us to come and talk about our program. Also, I want to say a shout out to the Audubon cheerleaders that are here today. Thank you for coming. Okay, so let me get geared up here. Okay, so you know who I am. I'm president of Audubon New Mexico. Lee, I'm following you. I can't do this forever, but I've been president for 10 years, and we started this program, Niños y Naturaleza, 10 years ago. We're celebrating our 10th anniversary this year, and we are not counting, including the COVID years, which was a little bit of a struggle, but we saw a need for preparing children for an uncertain future. And we did a survey of our community members, and it was a pretty thorough survey. And what rose to the top was, please teach our children, because they're inheriting the future. And what a future. So what we're doing is cultivating compassionate leaders for a resilient and regenerative future. Doesn't sound like much fun, but we make it fun for the kids. And these are the faces of the future, a few of the kids that we work with in our schools, and representing all the kids around the world who need to be prepared for what's coming. I had to get the girls in there, because we're all about empowerment, and I think that's a very empowering photo. The challenges they face, I don't think we need to go into great detail about it, but they're real, and we're on a trajectory to tragedy unless we have good intervention. And what that's going to be is people power, people that are equipped with compassionate hearts, knowledge, and skills. All these things are things that we're experiencing right now and what we expect to be exacerbated in the future. Biodiversity collapse, that's a little bit overstatement, but we are losing biodiversity every single day. And our whole world is built on that. Water scarcity is something that we suffer from, and we've worked for years to try to overcome this issue. Food insecurity is coming online if we don't get our acts together. And new emerging threat is technological vulnerability. I'll get into that a little bit more later. And the outcomes of these things are social disruption, political instability, competition for resources, displacement, and increased physical and mental health issues. Children as young as 8 years old are suffering from eco-grief. They have anxiety. Our kids are looking ahead to the future, unlike us. I mean, I think we were all raised with the hope for the future. We could do what we want to do. You know, we had opportunity. Kids now are looking at like so much uncertainty and disruption that they don't have that hope within them. And that's one of our jobs, is to try to instill them with hope. So we believe there's an imperative for nature-based education because we're in the midst of an ecological crisis. And we help to cause that. And so we're taking, as Audubon, responsibility for helping our kids. I am so not sure where I am. Through learning that is cognitive, socio-emotional, and behavioral, encourage critical thinking, empathy, and responsible actions, we want to empower children to make informed decisions and take action to protect the planet and all its wondrous inhabitants and improve societal well-being. That has to be the vision for the future, because without that kind of vision, there is no hope. So when we empower a child through connections with nature, we don't just teach them about the world, we empower them to shape a better one. And we must heal the disconnect between people and nature, because this is where it started. So, and it's been documented for decades, this divide between people and nature. Some of the reasons for that, of course, are urbanization, our loss of connection with nature, places to play in nature. And playing in nature is one of the fundamental things that children need to make those strong connections. There's also fear. A lot of parents fear having their kids go outside and play in nature. It's not like when we were kids, when our parents would tell us, like, okay, go out and have fun, come back at 5, whatever, don't forget dinner. Um, and we're relying on technology, such as services that bring energy magically into our home, so long as we pay the bill and the lights go on. And we have water that comes through pipes in many of our households. Some not so fortunate. Others, and pipes that take our waste away. We have grocery stores where we go to buy our food that sometimes we can't even recognize where the food came from, and we're disconnected with that very vital um, supply and our need in our life. So, and technology itself in the form of the internet and telephones and television such are taking over our free time and distracting us from the real world and the natural world. So we need to work on healing that disconnect, and that's one of the functions of our program, and to provide kids with what they need to thrive. Knowledge and tools. They need to know the basic understandings of the way the world works, ecosystem, biodiversity, and climate systems. They need to see how actions ripple through nature and society, how their actions make an impact, and the role of people and wildlife and plants and our natural resources in creating a place where life can thrive. They need to be curious and think about things not only in scientific ways, but that is one way, observing and asking questions and testing ideas. And they need to have some cultural and historical grounding. How did the indigenous people, how did their relations survive and thrive without the so-called luxuries that we have today? And they need essential skills. They need to know how to garden. They need to know how to plant a tree and cultivate vegetables. And they need to have some skills with observing the world around them. We use birds, so they learn how to use binoculars, field guides, and cameras. And they learn to know the names of the birds. And they get to see that there are other creatures in this world, and they get to know them. They need sustainable living practices, composting, water conservation, waste reduction. They need to learn how to collaborate and lead, problem solve and innovate, communicate and advocate, and take action, I think, is the number one thing. And they need grounding values in lives and mindsets, because at the heart of the matter is we care for what we love. So if we care for ourselves, we care for others, and we care for other living beings, we care for our natural resources, then that's what's going to take us to a sustainable future. And wonder is very important, because a sense of wonder leads to empathy, and empathy leads to protection and regeneration. We are a place-based program. We believe it's very, very important that students engage with where they live. They get to know their place. It brings learning to life, and it genders respect for where they live, and stewardship, and civic responsibility. Just going back there, we took the kids out to the presa to learn about water. So it was in the context of where they live and part of our water resources. We talked about the Lirio invasion that's taking over the presa. They got into a parked fishing boat. We used that as our outdoor classroom. It was really a great day. So, I'm going backwards. So sorry. I don't have time to go backwards. And we take kids outside where nature lives because you cannot form a heartfelt connection with nature. We cannot restore these connections with nature unless you really know it, unless you have opportunity to see it, to observe it, to feel it, to smell it, to touch it. And so we use the outside as our classroom, and we use gardens as one of our primary tools in our classroom. So we see ourselves as seeds of change to create agents of change. So they may face the challenges ahead with hope, vision, compassion, courage, resilience, and the knowledge and tools and skills that will help them become these agents of change that this world so needs. So how are we getting there? Our gardens I mentioned. Growing vegetables and growing plants for pollinators is a way to test your skills, learn new skills and abilities. It instills a sense of pride when you have something that you've grown and then you get to eat or share. And it emphasizes the value of teamwork. Geez, I got my finger on the wrong one. We're enlarging their world. They're getting to know the world around them. Most of the kids don't pay attention to what's going on outside. They don't spend much time outside. And when they're in their playground, they're playing soccer or whatever. So a bird is a blackbird or a yellow bird, or a worm is a yick. And, that's kind of the way it is. So we're exposing them to all kinds of things. One of the things, we took them out to observe the local birds. And it's a really great gateway to nature, birds are, because they're our most popular or populous backyard neighbor. And when they look through the telescope at a bird and see the individual feathers and the characteristics of the birds, it just is like, wow. And so we're touching hearts this way, but we're also learning about birds, their life cycles and the biology and their basic needs and such. We're learning about climate and natural resources because we got to get serious here. We don't say, we don't sugarcoat anything, but we don't make it in a scary way because we're more about a heart-centered situation. But they need to know what is climate and the difference between climate and weather, and about our global climate challenges and how nature heals itself, what we can learn from nature, and that we have a very important role in healing nature. And when we spend a lot of time talking about water, where water comes from, water cycles, our watershed, where is it? What does that mean? What are the dynamics? What does the aquifer do for us? And of course, the need to take care of this precious resource. And we talk about the wonder of it all. Even though we might be discovering the life cycles and systems of the natural world, at the same time, we're emphasizing the wonder of it. How does a butterfly come from a little tiny egg into a voracious caterpillar to wrap itself up in a cocoon and come out as this gorgeous butterfly? How does that happen? How do they know to do it? There are no real answers. It's all about this wonder that you feel about all these magical things that are in our world. And when we take notice of it, then we start to appreciate this world and we appreciate our lives and the gift of life itself. And during this, we also explore commonalities with other forms of life and an understanding that all things are connected. So that brings out more empathy, more love, but also feels that that we're not alone in this world. It's not just us humans. I read the book Audible. It was like about Are there other people in outer space? Well, we've got a lot of things on this planet that we can relate to and take care of and that help us in our lives. So it's a reciprocity situation that we're dealing with and built upon a desire to care. We have time for self-expression and reflection because the emotions are embedded within us. And so when we write or draw or role play as a bird to see what life like a bird is like, we're evoking the emotions that are embedded within them and bringing up to their consciousness. And we do self-sufficiency. There are lessons in that as well because these kids grew a garden that made a salad for 40 people. And they harvested it, cut it, prepared it, and served it. And one of the mothers that was visiting with us that day um, said, "Hey, gosh, if I would have known my son liked salads, I would have been feeding them this all along." And it's like, well, there's some truth in that. I mean, it's like when we get our lettuce from a grocery store, a lot of time it's just wilted old thing that's been traveling through by truck and sitting in the back room in the refrigeration. When you grow something yourself, it tastes better. It's fresh, and full of nutrition. So they're learning about nutrition, self-sufficiency, and opening up their world to new foods. And then learning responsibility, whether we are doing a cleanup, picking up trash, picking up after ourselves, making healthy soil by making compost, taking care of ourselves through growing our own food, and taking care of others by making bird baths. And a couple years ago, when it was so hot, we made bird baths and areas for birds to take water so that they could see that the birds were suffering and they wanted to help. And we make feeders, we tend the trees and plants. So these are things that I don't think that is usually a part of the school curriculum is taking responsibility in these ways. And they're learning about the power of community because it's so much fun when we work together and when we can get things done much faster as we collaborate and work cooperatively. And most of all, we have individual value. We have meaning in this life. We have a place in this life. We're part of a greater thing that we even know and that we can make a contribution and make a real difference in the world. This little girl, third grade, worked for like an hour and a half digging a hole for the tree. She just did not stop. It was amazing. I was like, this child she's got it all going on. She had a can-do attitude. And I think when the kids left that day, they were filled with feelings of accomplishment. And that is very empowering. So how do we know that we're making a difference? So when we first started this program, kids were like, bugs, get it off, get it me, kill it, whatever. And over time, as they learn this, about their shared life cycles and the things they had in common and that everybody has a role to play and that um, these living creatures have lives of their own, they start to calm down. Now this child looks like he's like kind of going, but he was very calm. And these kids had found this katydid up in the up on the property of the school, and they called us up to take a look at it, and it jumped up on this guy's sweater, and it started crawling up his neck, and he's like, wow. But then you notice he's not touching the bird. I mean, he's not touching the insect. The insect is touching him. And that was another lesson that this insect was kind of getting to know him. And when he turned around, the gal behind him, the katydid jumped onto her too. And she was just as cool, just like calm and cool, like this is a really interesting and curious moment. And that is empathy, and that is connection, and that is respect for other living beings. Um, I don't have photos to document this, but we had this little boy, first grade, and we don't teach first grade, but he had been observing and interacting with us. And one day he comes up to us and he goes, Muriel, the plants need water. They have feelings too. And it was like, yes. I mean, already at sixth grade, he had that great connection and that he could understand the needs of others and wanted to care for them. And we had a little girl who was in the fourth grade, and after a school festival, her mom came up to us and said, "Thank you so much for your program." When my daughter had been really depressed, very disconnected from everything, she didn't understand why anything mattered. She felt kind of hopeless. And after experiencing your program and on the days that you were at the school, she would come up home all excited with all this new knowledge that she had made connections to something beyond her and being able to look at the world in new ways. It gave her new meaning in life and to see herself as nature's caretaker. And that was a very meaningful moment, great feedback for us because it's exactly how we want to be. And these life-changing experience, I have just one other one that I wanted to share with you. One of those guys' name was Cesar. Mm. And about several years ago, Cesar was in our program. We started gardening when he was in the fifth grade. And Cesar was one of those kind of kids that had a really hard time in school. He couldn't sit down, he couldn't read, couldn't get his classroom assignments. He kind of became the class clown, I guess, and he was always in trouble and always going to the principal's office. And, he was just a disruptor. And after we started our garden program, Cesar turned out to be the star. His talents, his natural talents and intelligence emerged so greatly, shone so brightly. He became a leader of his classmates. When the teacher told him that he couldn't go on the field trip with us because he didn't have his work done and he'd been in trouble, the kids were his advocates. They found their voice and they were like, "No, Cesar has got to come. He's our leader and a very important part of our program, and this field trip is about our program." So he got to go. And when we had a group of people from Oregon come down to visit our schools, he was the guy that led them around and talked about them, about the zucchini we were growing and everything that we were doing, and with the pollinators, and who was attracted to the lavender, and he was totally interacting. And then we had an evening event we thought for just adults, although the kids were invited, to explain our program to the world. And there was Cesar, showed up, and at this time, sixth grade. And, to me, that was like this program is very meaningful to him. Years later, I saw him at the Cachiches Creek. He's getting off work, so he didn't finish school, but happy and, joking with his friends. And he saw me and he said, "Abril," and he gave me a big hug. And I'm like, wow, he remembers this program and he remembers my name. And I wasn't that involved in every day like his teacher was, but I really feel like we made a meaningful difference in this kid's life. We helped him to find his self-respect and his leadership skills and to be able to be successful at school in ways that the usual paradigm of school does not allow you to be. I love that kid. So last year we had the sixth graders write letters about what their experience. This is our first graduating class because we have 4 years with these kids. Um, and we had them write letters about their experience in the program. And Eric says, this workshop was something very meaningful because we worked very hard with a lot of effort, camaraderie, friendship, and above all, love. All of us did our part to help the earth. The truth is, it was something very beautiful and unforgettable. Thank you for everything. Wow. So I want to go just quickly. I don't know how much time I have, but great. Okay. Um, After COVID, we had to downsize a little bit. And so since we've been back in the schools, and we've been very fortunate to have our schools that we were working with us invite us back. We work in two public schools with 230 children. It's a 4-year program starting from the third grade. It was originally third through fifth grade, and the sixth graders were like, "Hey, what about us? We're not done. We would want to continue." So we came up with a sixth grade curriculum. We have 18 sessions with each grade per year. So that's 72 encounters. with these kids. We get to know them, and they get to know us, and they feel comfortable with us, and we get to go deeply. We have a new program. It's called the Eco Niños program. We piloted it last year. It's a partnership with the Biblioteca Publica, and it's an eco-literacy program. And we think that, all of our programs have an element of eco-literacy because it means you're learning about the natural sciences. But in this one, we have a revolving library, and 3 weeks before each session, 30 or so books are delivered on the topic that we'll be discussing in our upcoming session. The books are delivered by Feed the Hungry, so we selected Feed the Hungry schools to work in, rural schools. In our 2025 pilot program, we had 2 public schools with 30 children, 4th through 6th grade, with 20 hours of time with them. And we're going to go back this fall because I want to go back to that. We want to expand our Niños program. We think it's because the partnership is very strong. It's also a more condensed program, so we could do more schools and reach more children. And we have something really exciting coming up, and that is working. I mentioned our vulnerability to technology. Well, AI is taking over. We're also just being distracted by technology. But technology can be our friend as well. It can do a lot of service, but we need to know how to work it so that we're in control and isn't controlling us. So what we're doing is we're going to take these kids on an adventure of not just learning, but learning how to communicate what they care about. They're going to learn how to photograph, video, write, research, and conduct digital storytelling so that they can create a website for their school and share their voices with the world. The subject will be what they're learning in their Eco Niños program, and hopefully they'll get to the point where they're actually advocating for something specific. I talked to Robin really briefly about solutionaries. It's about taking kids and helping them identify a problem, researching and investigating the problem, and listening to all the different sides and coming up with solutions to empower them to make a difference in the world. That's where we want to get to. We want more radishes. We want more gardens. We want bigger gardens. We want to continue gardening, having seasonal gardens, and doing more of what we've been doing with our schools to help kids connect with nature and empower them. And how you can help, because we can't do this alone. Oh, we want to deepen engagement with teachers and parents. This is really important. Teachers are super busy. We're very lucky to be in these schools. But what we want to do is help them figure out how they can take kids outside with their regular programming, how they can incorporate solutionary type thinking, how can they go out and do math in the gardens or write in the gardens or even work in the gardens as they're discussing biology or the natural sciences and the environment. And for parents, we'd like to have them come and volunteer as their time allows. And we want to increase our capacity, and of course that means money, but not only money. Partnerships, volunteering, and sharing our word. Because the kids are the future, and we need to help them be able to look forward with hope and compassion and to become productive. And doesn't mean leadership doesn't mean that they have to be something big, the President of the United States or on the City Council or whatever. It means that in their everyday lives, they lead with integrity and with intention and with hope for a better future. Thank you.